Hi, and welcome back to part two of Reflecting on Iceland. Beautiful country, as I say, we were away for 3.5 weeks. Where did we get to? We got to when we were talking about the significant places. Now, the most amazing place, and it is the most amazing place for me personally, is a place called Hofsós. That's how it's pronounced, Hofsós, Hofsos. And we actually stayed on Hofsós Harbour. And the phraseology from scriptures that I've read in my research is where time stood silent, would be a phrase, and I'll certainly be using that in my upcoming book, The Realm, that will come out in October 2024. So it's a little way away yet, it's work in progress. But the realm is going to cover all the truth of the earth once and for all. And let's cut all the willy-nilly out. Let's cut all the if, buts and maybes. Let's just write it as it is. Let the readers, if they want to know, and take on the sections that they want on board. It's going to be an interesting read. I'd like to think it's going to be a really interesting read. But Hofsós, amazing place. It's the oldest harbour in Iceland, and it was used since it's been used as a harbour since 1538 CE. So it's quite some time. It's on the cusp of the safe zone. Now we can talk about that. Now it's quite interesting that I was talking to my learned friend about the safe zone prior to Grundavik having its issues, and how the main Atlantic ridge comes through that part of Iceland. So the whole southwest, south sort of northwest, I guess, and west itself, that whole quadrant there, that section, in time, mark my words, that will go into the sea, that will be lost. And Hofsós sits literally on the cusp of where it is likely to be safe. The entire area was once a great city for earlier versions of humans, and people don't realise this. So, yes, the volcano formed the landmass, as most plate tectonics and volcanic activity, and that causes the land to change shape, move, go up and down, left and right, and so on and so forth. For those who know about plate tectonics, which is quite a fascinating subject. Yet, as time dictates, the dissolution had to occur. Now, what do we mean by that, dissolution? There's some interesting things that I've read in my time that talks about the earlier versions of humans and how they weren't so this Neanderthal, as I said in part one. We're now in part two, obviously, of the video. It's how they were much more advanced and much more able to do things with engineering, and how they lived and how they used the energy and everything else. But as most things happen in existence, in life, particularly in the realm of the earth, all good things have to come to an end. Now, was it all good? Who knows? Who knows? We weren't there, were we? Or were we? I don't know. Perhaps you were. Which is an interesting concept if we look at how there are various people out there on the internet that claim that for the ice wall, the lands, that there's people that have come across from the ice wall, which again brings me to a very interesting subject area of the Serpent's Gate of Iceland, and that will be certainly mentioned in my book. I can't talk too much about it on here. It'll take too long in this particular video, but the Serpent's Gate is quite interesting from where Iceland is positioned in the realm of the earth, which is quite good. Other significant places we went to was Hola Cathedral and the Standing Stone, the Stones of Time. One of the stones rests at this place and acts as a marker for those who truly know, as is written. It links with which of that. Now, what's interesting, that stone links with Tara Hill in Ireland, to a chapel on the Isle of Mull, and of course direct to Roslin Chapel in Roslin in Mid-Lothian. So, for those that know about Roslin Chapel, the Templars, the Sir Henry Sinclair, and all the aspects that go with that, again, a fascinating subject area. I have spent many a time at Roslin Chapel from a child right through. I've loved the place, and I revisit it when I can. It's got the most amazing energy. It is said that the magnetics of the Earth run through this particular hub, and that's why it was built there. But there's so many different theories about this Rosslyn Chapel. But what one thing to take away from here, if you can, is mark the standing stone at Hola Cathedral in Iceland. Mark that line down to Tara Hill, where all the kings of Ireland were made kings over the centuries. Yeah, Tara Hill in Ireland, in what was County Meath, as it were, in that area. And then tie that into the chapel on the Isle of Mull. And you'll find that area quite an interesting encapsulated area to do any type of research, really, for any historical points. And that's really, really good. We also went to the Fosslaug waterfall, where the Stone of Judgment lies. So again, many people won't know about the Stone of Judgment. The Stone of Judgment is a really interesting point if we go back to the previous versions of human life. It is said that the essence of life flows through. Oh, that's a mouthful, isn't it? Flows through this magnificent wonder. This makes total sense, as a short distance from the magnificent demonstration of nature is the Stone of Judgment. So we have the massive great waterfall, which really enhances and makes one feel really, really tiny, really. And makes us realise how fragile, I guess, a human body is. It was once a place where great decisions were made about lives of others in the previous versions. So that's really, really interesting as well. We went to the Myvatin geothermal area, the destination of fate. It was created 2,000 years ago when a series of craters erupted. This area links directly to the motion of the Earth and the winds of the sky. How does that do that? Well, anyone that knows anything about the geothermal aspects and how climate areas work will know why this area there in Myvatin is MYVATN in Iceland, MYVATN geothermal area, why that is so important. There's some interesting points to note, really, to be fair, which I'll sort of relatively cover. Travel from the Faroe Islands to Iceland has the most amazing magnetic frequencies that truly show the dome in all its truth and glory. The frequency of rainbows with duality in nature, the power of entrapment, which I was quite overwhelmed by seeing that and feeling that. It does feel quite interesting or strange in a way. Of all the unsuspecting places for those who reverse to show themselves, but in the place of the Trimley St Martin in England. Now, we're going back to England now, where we were. Trimley St Martin has a very interesting source of energy. It is somewhat odd that certain things reveal themselves there, which is quite good. And I've actually put that in some of my TikTok photos, so I'll leave you to make that decision on what that means. I've talked about the Pyramid of Time at Hofsós, adjacent to the oldest church in Iceland, and obviously the link of how that links to the Stone of the Oceans. All those 3 points in time are very relevant, or land points and markers are very interesting. If we talk about from the Faroe Islands heading towards Hertsfjord, lining up with the Shetland Isles, a magnificent tear in the fragment of time itself, showing many aspects of the realms to others. So there is quite an interesting void on that travel. And I certainly was able to experience that, if you believe in that sort of thing. There is a direct connection from the Faroe Islands, interesting, to Poland, and a guidance of how quests would follow us to, or travel to, Finland should lead the way. Now, interestingly, on our next quest, we're going to Finland, and on the quest after that, we're going to Poland. So we're hoping we're going to join the dots, if we can, in the quest for the Grail. At the point of the ocean, on board the MV Norröna, as I now know how to pronounce it, I sat physically to observe the same man travel past with the same plate of food twice consecutively. And as long as I sit here today alive, that is the God's honest truth. That same man went past me with the same plate and smiled, and then about 2 or 3 minutes had passed. And he came back again with the same plate and smiled in exactly the same direction. There is no physical, earthly explanation for that apart from what I write about, which is really interesting. So Iceland, amazing place. If you get a chance in your lifetime, go please. It's a beautiful, beautiful place.